In this forecast, a major pattern change will lead to widespread rainfall for much of the United States, including continued rainfall for the western United States, rain showers for the eastern United States, and even severe thunderstorms for the central United States. We could also see the possibility of a snowstorm across the northern plains and Great Lake regions. Everything you need to know on GladiatorWX. Hello everyone, welcome back to another weekly Overlook forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for November 16th into the 23rd. As of right now, we currently have a low pressure system across the western United States that's mostly leading to some rainfall that we've been seeing a lot of across the western United States last week. We're not really going to see much of a break from that this week, as we will see some continued rainfall for much of this week across the western United States. There might be some days that we see less rainfall than others, or maybe no rainfall at all, but that's going to be followed by some more rainfall. The western United States just isn't really going to be able to catch much of a break from heavy rainfall, and some of the Rockies may even be able to see a continuation of snowfall. And then across the northern United States, the Great Lakes region and the eastern seaboard into some of the Dixie states, we currently have a nice mid-level jet that's currently advecting across those regions. It's not really leading to much rainfall, as there's not really a whole lot of moisture across this region to support that much rainfall. We do have some snowfall across the New England states that is going to continue for the next 2 or 3 days, which we'll talk about later. But overall, this is just leading to some colder temperatures as the cold front progresses southward over the next couple of days. Into tomorrow, that shortwave that I was talking about across the western United States is going to move into the Rockies and exit into the Central Plains by the 18th. This is mostly just going to lead to some rainfall, maybe some extended snowfall across portions of the Rockies. And then we're going to see the arrival of another low pressure system across the western United States into California, into Oregon. That's going to lead to some more rainfall, as I was talking about. And then into the 18th, that shortwave is going to exit into the Central Plains and into the Midwest region. This is going to provide a little bit of a risk for severe thunderstorms, probably some just marginal severe thunderstorms that aren't going to be too strong across Arkansas, western Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, into Missouri. This is also going to lead to some snowfall, and that's going to exist in a corridor across the northern Central Plains into some of the Great Lakes regions, into Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. However, we'll talk about that later. And then into the 18th, that low pressure system is going to move further south across the western United States, leading to some heavier rainfall across the central and southern portions of California into Arizona and Nevada. And then we'll also see a much weaker shortwave that could lead to some isolated rain showers across the northwest there. Into the 19th, that low pressure system is going to continue to move eastward, moving into the Rockies, mostly into further southern California, Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico, with some further advection across the Central Plains and into the western United States. That might lead to a little bit of rainfall, but probably not really a whole lot. And then that trough is going to arrive in the Central Plains by the 20th. And this is going to kick off our risk for severe thunderstorms, as I was talking about, across the central United States. We're going to see a decent risk for some marginally severe thunderstorms, to potentially some slight risk severe thunderstorms right around that region. I expect the SPC to probably issue a slight risk as of now. Right now there is some uncertainty with this, but what is expected is some severe thunderstorms and heavy rainfall across the central United States that is going to move into places such as Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and even into maybe portions of Louisiana as well. This will also come with the risk for potentially some tornadoes across Texas and Oklahoma on the 20th. And then into the 21st, we're going to see a continuation of another trough that's going to be across the western United States that might lead to some rainfall, but we're also going to see some advection across the northwest that might also lead to some rainfall. But that trough is also going to continue to move into the eastern United States, as well as any of that rainfall that may be persistent from the 20th is going to move eastward. That's going to lead to quite a bit of widespread heavy rainfall, maybe some marginally severe thunderstorms across the western or eastern United States into Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Tennessee, West Virginia, and portions of the eastern seaboard as well. Into the 22nd, we're going to see a continuation of those rain showers across the eastern seaboard into the Appalachian states and even into the New England states a little bit. And then also that low pressure system across the western United States is going to continue to move southward over time. But we will see some continued flow across the northwest that might lead to some rainfall and some cooler temperatures. And then into the 23rd, we're going to see the possibility for some marginally severe thunderstorms and widespread rain showers for the Dixie states here, as there's the potential for that short wave that was up in the northwest to move down to the southeast and trigger some marginally severe thunderstorms and widespread rain showers across Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. However, I haven't really seen this on too many other model runs. We are using GFS, and this is pretty far ahead, about 180 hours in the future. So definitely take this with a grain of salt, and make sure you're watching the weather, as things can get quite tricky to forecast this late in the week. Taking a look at our precipitation type, or our composite reflectivity, or simulated reflectivity, so we can look at our timing for our snowfall and our rainfall for this week. Starting off with the 16th, which is today. We're not really going to see a whole lot of changes. We are going to see continuations of some snowfall across the New England states, as well as some widespread scattered showers across the Rockies and the western United States, with some snowfall in some elevated regions of California into Nevada. And then into the 17th, we are going to see some more rainfall across the western United States, as we see a cold front from a low pressure system further off the coast advect onto the central plains. And we're also going to see some continued snowfall across the Rockies into Colorado, Wyoming, and Idaho, maybe even into some lower elevation regions of Wyoming and Colorado there. And then into the 18th, that's when that low pressure system is going to move into the central plains. And that's when we're going to see our risk for our snowstorm across the central plains into the Great Lakes states, starting in South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, into portions of Iowa as well on the 18th. That's going to move further southward into Michigan, portions of northern Indiana, and maybe even into Ohio and portions of Pennsylvania by the 19th. It's going to be moving really quickly, and we're not really going to see a whole lot of heavy precipitation with this system, so snowfall accumulation will remain pretty limited, mostly probably a foot at most, if even. So snowfall will remain relatively low, and this region is pretty attuned to snowfall, so I doubt it will have a whole lot of impacts on your daily commute, but I would definitely still use some caution. And then the 18th again, we are going to see some continued rainfall across the western United States, more so down into the California states and even into Arizona, and then also some rainfall across the Mississippi River Valley into Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, western Tennessee, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, just to the south of that snowstorm region associated with that shortwave trough. And then into the 19th, and we're going to see some continued rainfall across the eastern seaboard into Tennessee and Kentucky on the 19th, and then also some isolated snow showers and maybe some isolated rainfall, mostly some mixed precipitation across the northwestern United States, as well as some scattered showers across Arizona, Nevada, and California on the 19th as well. And then into the 20th, we are going to see our risk for severe thunderstorms across the central plains associated with that cold front that's going to be pushing along with our trough that's going to be moving into this region on the 20th. That is going to be the main trigger for our severe thunderstorms, and again, maybe the potential for some tornadoes across Texas into Oklahoma. And then we're also going to see maybe some marginally severe thunderstorms, mostly just some widespread rain showers with that warm front that's going to be pushing off to the north as well across Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, Illinois, and into Kansas as well. And then we're also going to see some continued rainfall across the western United States into California on the 20th as well. And then into the 21st, a lot of that rainfall is going to continue northeastward, moving into the Great Lakes region and the eastern United States. Maybe some marginally severe thunderstorms. However, I doubt that moisture and instability will be able to really extend this far northward with how cold it is. But it is possible that we might see some marginally severe thunderstorms as this system progresses northeastward, but we will see some widespread rain showers regardless. And then into the 23rd and Sunday, there is that potential for some marginally severe thunderstorms, or at least some widespread rain showers across the Dixie states into the Florida Panhandle, Alabama, Georgia, and maybe even into Mississippi on the 23rd. Taking a look at our temperatures and how that's going to fluctuate across the United States this week. Across the western United States, we're going to see multiple cold fronts that are going to advect across the western United States, the western seaboard. That's going to lead to that rainfall with temperatures in the day that are probably going to fluctuate anywhere from the 50s to maybe even the 60s in some regions. That could get as cold as the 40s and the low 50s in some regions as a result of those cold fronts. That could then warm up again on days where you aren't seeing as much rainfall in some areas. So across the western United States, it's going to be quite fluctuating. It's going to be very crazy as far as temperatures go, but it might remain decently warm in some areas and could get decently cold in some areas. Across the central plains, it's going to remain quite warm for a lot of the week, with the 17th through the early 20th, potentially even getting upwards of the high 80s and maybe even into the 90s in some regions across the central plains, with some warmer temperatures across the eastern United States and the southern states, getting into the 80s and maybe even the 50s and the 60s. A lot of the United States is going to remain quite warm, except for the New England states, which is primarily going to remain decently cold, mostly getting to probably the 30s in some regions, and then dipping down below freezing at night, with some areas still seeing below freezing temperatures in the day. So it's going to remain quite cold across the New England states, and it's going to remain a little chillier across the far northern states, but across a vast majority of the United States, the central United States, central plains, the eastern states, and even down into the southern states, it's going to remain really warm for a great portion of the week. And then into the 20th, by the time that cold front arrives for the central plains, it's going to cool things down quite a bit. However, it will remain quite warm into the 20th, the 22nd, and the 23rd. The temperatures in the day potentially still getting upwards of 60s and 70s, and maybe even into the low 80s in some regions. With Florida and southern Georgia remaining mostly untouched by that cold front, with temperatures still remaining around the 80s for a great portion of the week, which shouldn't really change throughout the week. Should remain quite warm for the great majority of the week. But even then, across the central plains, with temperatures still fluctuating, getting cooler after the 20th, temperatures will still remain quite warm across a great portion of the United States, despite that cold front moving through. Taking a look at our instability and how that's going to affect our risk for severe thunderstorms this week, we're mostly just going to skip ahead to the 20th here and look at the instability for there. Before the 20th, you can see the instability building across the central plains and then blowing off eastward into a small thin corridor, with that original trough that I was talking about. That's going to lead to that snowfall and that potential for some marginal severe thunderstorms across Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Arkansas, and western Tennessee. We could see some marginal instability across that region that could support some marginal severe thunderstorms. And then across the 20th, we're going to see some pretty decent instability with most unstable Cape values getting upwards of 1,300, 1,400, which is some decent instability. Definitely going to lead to some decently strong storms across this region. And then into the 21st, as that cold front moves out of the region, we are going to see some instability right along that cold front. Might support some marginal severe thunderstorms in some regions, or at minimum some lightning in some regions with some rain showers. And then into the 23rd, we could see a little bit of that instability remain across the eastern seaboard down into the southern Dixie states. That might support a continued risk for severe thunderstorms across some region in the southern United States. Models have been quite indecisive of where that's going to happen, but we could see the potential for some isolated severe thunderstorms across the southern United States, the Dixie states on Sunday. Taking a look at our energy helicity index values and how that's going to indicate our risk for tornadoes on the 20th. Our energy helicity index is a parameter that shows where the overlap for instability and our directional shear is. And directional shear and instability are two very key components for tornadic development. They're the most important ingredients for tornadic development, and this energy helicity index parameter shows where those two overlap and where the potential for tornadoes might exist. So we're going to use that to show our potential for tornadoes across the United States for this week. On the 20th, which is going to be our primary day for severe thunderstorms across Texas, we have a nice hotspot of energy helicity index values that's going to be getting upwards of 1 and even into 2 in some regions. And it's definitely indicating the overlap of some instability and some shear, definitely the possibility of tornadoes across Texas into Oklahoma on the 20th, associated with those severe thunderstorms. And then into the 21st and the 22nd, as that cold front progresses eastward across the Mississippi River Valley into Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, where we might see the potential for some marginal severe thunderstorms, some isolated severe thunderstorms embedded in some rainfall. We might see the potential for some tornadoes. It doesn't look like it's a non-zero risk, but based on storm mode and just other ingredients, there might be a very low potential for tornadoes, but it might not be zero. So I'd watch out for that. And then into Saturday and Sunday, we could see some shear and some instability linger across the southern United States. And that could allow for the potential for some severe thunderstorms and the potential for some tornadoes, probably just a marginal risk for tornadoes across the southern United States on Saturday and Sunday with some of those severe thunderstorms. That's all I really wanted to talk about today. So now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for GladiatorWX and join the Discord for any updates on GladiatorWX. And hopefully I'll see you later with another forecast.